All right, here we are. Design review number 16. We're here with Varun from The Biz and Eric from Umbrel Node Display. He's working on a interface for a node manager. And yeah, we're going to be doing a little show and tell, a little casual conversation about like maybe improvements, learning about the projects, and you know, just a nice chit chat about improvements on the UI that we could do. And yeah, so how about we kick it off? Who'd like to start in the first half an hour? We'll break it. It's going to last for an hour. The first half an hour will be one project. The second one, the other project. Who'd like to get started?
I have no preference. I don't mind unless you want to start, Varun.
Yeah, I'm fine with anything. So either I can start, or if you want to go. Okay, I'll start.
Go ahead.
Okay, Eric's going.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
All right, let me go ahead and take over the presentation here. All right, are you guys able to see my display here?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So I just want to run you guys through a project that I've been working on with two different developers actually. One of them, Aaron Dews, recently actually left the Umbrel development team. There's there's a fork coming that has to do with licenses with Umbrel and potentially a new Node version. But the nature of the design and the project that I'm building doesn't really change. But the idea is, the project that I've been working on is to design a display for an Umbrel node running on a Raspberry Pi, specifically for the 3.5-inch display that's compatible with the Raspberry Pi. What you're seeing here is the display that's out of the box with Raspberry Blitz, which is another node management software. I think Christoph is actually in the Slack, and there's some folks that have been helping them with the web UI for this. But what's cool about Raspberry Blitz is that it actually comes with a screen and has a very, very limited GUI. As you can see here, it's still very much kind of command line, kind of really geared towards developers, people that understand a little bit of Unix and terminal commands. But it's awesome to hold in your hand a full node with the display. This is an example of what's called Warden Terminal by a developer named Alpha Zeta. And this is in extreme alpha mode. This was launched a couple days ago. I was actually working with Alpha to troubleshoot it and get it running on my own display. And it took a couple hours, and it takes a lot of, without a very skilled developer by my side, I would not have been able to execute this. But this is very much the cutting edge right now of Bitcoin node display, 3.5-inch LCD display technology. And as we can see, is a lot of good useful information, a lot of really cool stuff here, but it's still very command line focused. There's a lot of cool features here. Like one of them is that it actually cycles through Satoshi quotes from the Nakamoto Institute. So the screen actually cycles in a certain amount of seconds in intervals between the current Bitcoin price, information related to your Pi, like memory usage, temperature, storage, Satoshi quotes, and then information related to your node. Now, this screen does interact with Umbrel. So what you're seeing right now is an example of a screen that's fully connected to your Umbrel node and displaying information real time. Now, this is great. This is a fantastic start, but we really want to take this to the next level, both design-wise and user experience-wise, which is why I joined this project. Now, why Umbrel? Umbrel specifically is they place a lot of emphasis on the user experience. If you've ever set up an Umbrel node, or if you've ever seen an Umbrel dashboard, what you'll notice is everything from the setup, meaning the getting started wizard that you see here on the left, it has this really nice guided wizard that lets the user know, all right, this is what you guys have to do for step 1. These are links to the hardware that you need to buy. If you hit next, it runs you through the install in an extremely user-friendly fashion. It holds your hand through the process. Then on the right, what you'll see is the actual Umbrel user interface for Lightning, for Bitcoin Node and Lightning Node management. And what you can see is a pretty sleek and a pretty friendly user interface here. You have different tabs here, navigating between Bitcoin, Lightning. You can connect, external wallets. You can even download other apps like Spectre, Mempool, BTC Pay Server, and run those on your own node. So it really is, in my opinion, at the forefront of both UX and UI design for node management. And that's my opinion, but a lot of other people, a lot of other Bitcoiners feel that way as well. This is just reading the temperature of the room. A lot of individuals compliment about how easy it is to set up an Umbrel. This individual says Umbrel UX is beautiful and works seamlessly. My days of compiling on Linux command line are done. Another user feels good to be able to enforcing the protocol, which is changing the world for better. Setup was super easy, and the Umbrel UX is fire. And this one here from Reddit, I really like because I think this speaks to kind of the mission, and it speaks to the role that user experience has in this process. This individual, they says, kudos to the clean and modern UI aesthetics, but this sentence really got to me. He says, I recommend you give it a shot because I'm the least technical person and find it a bit crazy that after about an hour's worth of work, I'll soon have the entire blockchain sitting on this solid state drive in my room. How great is that? That individuals who are not very technical, they may not be comfortable in the command line. They can, order this hardware for relatively cheap and then run through this install process and get a full node running, validate their own transaction, and get deeper into Bitcoin. Umbrel is also really popular. This is a very, very unscientific and small poll. So, take it with a mountain of salt. But, this Twitter user just put the question out there, what Bitcoin node do you run? 53% of the 123 respondents said they run Umbrel. So, again, this is not, representative of all node runners or anything like that, but, just throwing it out there on Bitcoin Twitter, these are the results you get. So, just something to keep in mind for whatever that's worth. So the goal in this project is to design a 3.5 screen, a user interface with 3.5-inch Raspberry Pi that matches the Umbrel design branding. So now keep in mind that since we're dealing with a very limited screen size, this is going to limit the amount of functionality and real estate that we have to both display information and have the user execute tasks on the screen. The key here, in my opinion, is to keep it useful. Which means that we don't want to just crowd all the features that you can do on your on Umbrel, for desktop or in the local web browser, but we really just want the screen to be useful. So if it's something that you have by your computer, that if you have like this user hanging on the wall, you can walk by it at a glance and get useful information. So what is useful information? What do users want to see? That's a good question. So we started by conducting a survey. We went to the community directly and we asked them, what do you guys want to see on a Raspberry Pi LCD display for Umbrel? We went on Twitter, we went on Reddit, and we went on the Umbrel community forum. We threw together a Google survey and we asked the community, please let us know, what would be useful for you? What would you like to see in this project? We got about 93 responses. This is just a quick snapshot of the survey. We had put together some of the stuff that, we suspected users would want, based on previous conversations, based on, looking at community forums, looking at old Reddit threads, and, based on our own experience, about what's useful. So we gave them some options. We pulled a survey. We got some good data. So we have an idea here of, what users might want to see, what's really important to them, what's not so important to them. There's another section that I didn't include for additional comments that was quite helpful, where people just kind of were able to type whatever they want, and they gave us kind of additional insight. And I'm happy to share this after the call if anyone wants to kind of review these results in detail. But some of the most important things that people want to see is they want to see the Raspberry Pi temperature. Right now, that's not really a feature that you can do in Umbrel easily. You have to go to the debug logs, export the logs, and then kind of see it. So that's pretty important because that can affect the performance. People want to see the price in various formats. The mempool, very, very important. If you want to, be moving transactions about, if the mempool is clear, it's helpful to know that. So just good insight. It helps us stay focused when we're designing. So based on that survey, I was able to get, some idea about what people want to see. So I just quickly, grabbed a piece of paper and I just started sketching out, some quick sketches about, what could be included that addresses a lot of the most popular requested things. What's going to be valuable. So this is just 4 sketches. I have more of them, but the idea here is not really to make anything pretty. It's just to get some ideas on paper and kind of get the brainstorming process going. From there, I jumped into Figma and I started prototyping some designs and some solutions, which I'll share in a little bit more detail in just a second. And then in the future, where can this go aside from the 3.5-inch, Raspberry Pi display? One user to point out this piece of hardware, which is like a 10.1-inch display that you can plug the Raspberry Pi in back here, if you see, and it functioned as a display and it's touchscreen. So there's, a lot of potential for this. If somebody wants to, have like a full Bitcoin node as a portable tablet of sorts, they can do that. If they want to install BTC Pay server here and use it as a point of sale device, they can do that. And there's all kinds of, use cases that we can that this can go towards. But aside from that, I also have been kind of thinking myself. I mentioned that one of the developers recently left the Umbrel project, and we've kind of been thinking about in addition designing a more generic, maybe non-Umbrel branded UI for all Pi nodes to be able to run. Totally open source, totally free, of course, on GitHub. That might just make it so even if you're not running Umbrel, you can still download this, execute it with your Pi node and still get a display. Because we don't want, we want this to be for everyone, not just Umbrel users. So with that said, I will quickly just show the Figma prototype here and just kind of run you guys through some of the design that has features that users suggested were useful. Go back. Okay. What's the command for entering presentation mode on Figma? Can someone chime in? To just like get rid of this stuff.
You can right click and hide elements, I think. Hide UI. Yeah. Show hide UI.
Awesome. So this is just this is kind of Umbrel branded a UI here. This is one version of the home screen, and what we do is try to show the information that's useful. So individuals wanted to see things like the RAM, the disk space, the temperature of the Pi. They want to control brightness. This gives them kind of with a quick glance one overview of information that they felt was very relevant. And just scrolling through here to the right, we see different iterations of this design, different layouts, trying to achieve as much visual harmony as possible. This QR code that you see here, one user suggested, actually a couple users suggested it would be helpful to have it actually on the Pi display in case individuals wanted to receive Lightning payments or Bitcoin payments. They can just hold up their node, or they can scan the node and kind of execute their transactions that way. But the goal here within the home screen was to show some of the most commonly requested features, which was temperature, Bitcoin price, Lightning wallet, Bitcoin wallet, the percentage of the blockchain that's synchronized to the node, and network information. So you can see the mempool, you can see the hash rate, the current blockchain size, some useful information. Secondly, users also, they wanted price. Price was big. So similar, following the conventions already established in the Umbrel user interface, we decided to kind of recycle some of those elements by having home, Bitcoin, Lightning, and settings. So if the user clicks, or in this case, touches, since it's a touchscreen, on the Bitcoin tab, users wanted to see both a line and candlestick chart. So what we just have here is, simple line chart, simple candlestick chart that the user can toggle between both modes and get that information. And then Lightning, this is going to be probably the meat of it, probably the most important thing that node runners, probably Lightning node runners, want to be able to see. So what's useful here would be seeing things like all your open channels. What's the max send capability? What's the if you've sent invoices to other users, what's the status of those invoices and payments? Your current payment channels, a summary of all that information. So basically, like a one-stop place where you can quickly get an overview of your Lightning, of your Bitcoin Lightning settings on your node, without having to log into your computer or log into your phone. Just quickly do it through the display on the Pi. So this is kind of where we're at right now. We're trying to go from this, which is an incredible start, to something that's just a little bit more user-centric, a little bit more user-forward. I want to open up the invite to absolutely anyone, not just designers, but developers, anyone, just Bitcoiners, anyone who might have thinks that they can help or just wants to help. Feel free to hit me up, and I'll plug you in, and we can all work on this together, because if this is something you're interested in, it's a fun project and has the potential to be really, really useful. And I think that's all I have for presentation. For the last couple of minutes, I'll open up the floor to questions, comments, feedback.
I have a few items that I could mention.
Yeah, please, let me get some notes.
So generally, I think that one trend I see with your layouts is they feel really disjointed. Like it's a bunch of stuff floating around on the screen, and there's not a lot of ways for a lot of anchors for my eye to know the flow of the layout and what the hierarchy of the data is. And I think maybe one thing you could consider, I don't know if you can consider it for sure. I don't know enough about how the display in the tech side, but maybe take a mobile approach and make it vertical instead of horizontal. This doesn't really jive with your idea of connecting it to a bigger display, like a tablet display. That I think you could maybe just use the normal Umbrel interface for. But if you're dealing with a small interface, maybe consider designing this as if it were a mobile app and going vertical instead of horizontal. And that would probably force you to design something that is much more digestible for the user for a display that size. For example, instead of having buttons that are about each coin or such, maybe the buttons or the first thing that the user does is a concept of a mode. What is the use case? Why are they using this node at the moment? And to choose that mode for the display, so they can basically have a way of navigating all those different windows you showed based off of how they use the node. Something the system mode, which is when I want to see the temperature and all the tech stats of the device, or the wallet mode, or the point of sale mode, for people who want to receive payments and use it at a merchant device. Think of it more of the use cases, and also still consider vertical, because it'll force you to if you look at your layouts, they look like 2 or 3 displays placed side by side. And so maybe those should just be 3 frames in a vertical layout. I don't know. I don't know if that fits with your long-term vision of like I said, if you're going to go horizontal and plug it into a big display, you can use the regular Umbrel interface, right? You just have to make it tap friendly. Yeah, that's all my notes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the idea of having a navigation customizable to the user's needs, system mode, point of sale mode. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm definitely looking into that. Yeah, thanks, John.
No problem.
Could you share a link to that Figma, please, by the way?
Yes, 1 second. Just drop it in the chat.
Awesome. And yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier that these kind of functionalities that you're laying out are pretty are going to be pretty standard among all node managers as well. is it something that would only be branded for like Umbrel, or would you think to make it also more generic?
Yeah, with the recent direction that one of the developers has gone, we're looking at possibly redesigning it to make it a little bit more generic, so that anyone that has any type of node on their Pi with the display can load this software. Originally, we were working closely with the co-founders and some of the developers at Umbrel to put this in the Umbrel App Store, so people can just kind of get it running out of the box. But now we're leaning towards something that might be generic, posted on GitHub, that anyone can basically just install on their Pi and then run as they see fit. It totally optional, kind of without it being approved in the Umbrel App Store. So in that case, yeah, we probably want to make it non-Umbrel branded and just more generic.
Yeah, and I kind of also agree with John here about the like there is quite a lot of information on each of these screens, and I think when I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, so like, is all this information like really relevant for me as a user? Like, for example, I'd probably pull up the mempool details on my mobile device or something, versus like looking at it from the node, because it's going to be a bit more accessible. I feel sometimes. Is the interface touchscreen, by the way?
Yes.
It is touchscreen. I see. And yeah, I guess one of the things is like, if you don't have like a solid case for it and whatnot, you're kind of scared, like, oh, am I just gonna disconnect it? So I don't really want to like touch it too much. Me personally, I've not set up one of these nodes, Raspberry Pi nodes, but I have like played around with like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, and yeah, you touch something and then a wire pops out, and then you're like, oh crap, now I broke it.
Hey there, if I could say one thing, and I mentioned this in the, I think it's super cool project. I think the biggest thing you're going to run into is, I just printed out this design here at the original size. And if you see how big my finger is next to everything, I can't, it's too small. I can't, well, my printer's not the best that either, but if I have to interact with some of these things, it's just really tiny. So I think one of the biggest things you're going to run into is that your information density is too high and things need to be bigger, and that will automatically probably force you into reorganizing the information pretty differently. So you might need to pick out the primary information, make it bigger, and then allow clicking through to different areas. So it might affect your whole navigation system. That would be my guess, but I think I printed it at the right size here, and it's
that looks about right.
Pretty small. Have you tried it on a real screen?
No, not yet.
Yeah, that probably is going to have a big effect.
Definitely.
Basically, if you don't figure out a way to reduce the overall information on the screens, you're going to end up only appealing to like really technical users that really feel like they want like a total dashboard all the time, and you won't find a breakout use case if you do that.
Yeah, definitely. Good suggestions. I think there's a lot to do from an information architecture perspective, and just kind of deciding exactly out of all the information that we're displaying, what's the most useful and what's the best way to display it on such limited real estate.
Okay, we got about 4 more minutes left on this one. Is there any other areas in particular that you would like some targeted feedback on?
No, nothing in particular. I just kind of wanted just like general insights, and I think I got some really good feedback on really on the entirety of the layout that I'm excited to kind of implement. I think just going to try to give this a lot more breathing room. I think that's a really good place to start. And then I really like John's suggestion about different navigational modes depending on the users.
Yeah, and it was really great that you started off with this like bit of research and stuff initially. But one of the things about Bitcoin, Twitter, and stuff, it is probably the more technical user that you're going to end up with. And I guess a big question is like, who are the people outside of Bitcoin Twitter who are using this? Because the Bitcoin Twitter people may see that. Like they want all these things on the screen, the things that they're used to, network stats and all those kind of things. But who are the other Umbrel users, right? And are those the ones that you're gonna have to like design for ultimately?
Yeah, it'd probably be helpful to kind of tap into a different user base, because it seems like the highly technical users really tend to be both the loudest and probably the ones that are running full nodes. So there's probably a little bit of bias there in the data.
Well, it's tricky too. Like you're at a spot where you have to respect that audience because they're the only ones that are going to use a Raspberry Pi node. Like if you want to productize this and make a small format piece of commercialized hardware or such, then all the stuff we're saying matters a lot. But if you're only going to be pushing this to people, to enthusiasts that are willing to like build their own computers and care about pies at all, then you don't have to be as concerned. You probably do want your users dictating some of your features.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up the Node screen one. Let's move on to the Biz and Varun.
I want to give him a quick assist intro, just because I don't know if all of you have heard the overview of the Biz or what the hell it is, but just to frame what he's about to show you. The biz.pro is a website where we're experimenting with a podcast that I'm publishing, and this is like a side project of our company to kind of just start introducing people to some of the things we want to play with in our other products, like different ways of monetization and different ways of distributing content, etc. And so we made the first version of the website and learned a lot of lessons, and we started making lists of some things we wanted to change, and overall just wanted to make it look a lot better. And so this presentation that Varun's about to give you is just kind of like an upgrade, like a 2.0 of the website. So it takes into consideration some of the feedback. It's got some new artwork and such, and some new content that will be in there. Although some of the content is placeholder, so I had some of these people cancel interviews or such. So don't assume these are all people that are affiliated with us at all. It's just mock-ups. But yeah, the concept of the website is it has a crowd wall. So basically, each episode is unlocked, gradually by every user that tips towards that episode. And each time you tip, you unlock proportionally the amount of sound of the audio of that episode for everybody. So if you tip like 1% of the total goal, you unlock 1% of the podcast for free for everybody forever. And you can only listen to 1%. And so everybody contributes to this big paywall. And then when the paywall is 100% unlocked, the episode becomes downloadable and fully listenable for free forever. And it also then gets distributed by Bitcoin Magazine and their podcast channels. So yeah, go ahead, Varun. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys can see my screen.
Yeah. You might want to hide the UI though.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the landing page that we have. And so we have a little introduction section here.
This isn't the first frame though, right?
Yeah, this isn't the first frame. This is the first frame. Yeah, and so we have the menu bar. We have little introduction, and because CrowdWall is a concept that we are testing out with a base, so it has a separate action button to take it to like more details about the CrowdWalls. And then we have two different kinds of cards here, so which is like the latest episode. And the reason for placing this latest episode section is to focus the attention of people, because like our whole concept is like people need to contribute for the episodes to be unlocked. So in order to unlock those episodes, it's like it's like a constant placeholder where the unlocked episode, or like the latest episode which is going to be unlocked, is what we're going to place, so that most of their attention goes there and people can look to contribute and unlock that. And then we have another card version where we have the unlocked episode, where we have previous unlocked episodes, and users can go through them, and because they're completely unlocked, they can select those cards and go to a different screen where they can have the full details about the episode, the description, the summary, etc. So talking about here, this is like the full card version, and in this full card version, so we show the details, which is how much it's unlocked, the option to contribute, the title, the description, to whom like the donation is going to be. So 50%, like in most of the episodes that are getting unlocked, so 50% gets donated to somebody, and so to whom the donation is going to go is what we mention here. Then we have a player, so we have the player toggles, we have limits, we have also given the option to choose the player speed, and then if somebody wants to download. Now if anybody clicks contribute, then it basically opens up this details within the same card, where the user can select that in which way he wants to contribute. So rather than just keeping it based on sats, we kind of try to give the user experience of being able to contribute in terms of percentage, minute, or dollars, because usually that's what people tend to analyze things on how they want to contribute. And so they can basically go and select any one of these, and yeah, so once they get selected, then it shows this kind of selected frame. And then also for sats, they can choose two different ways of paying. So either they can pay through Lightning, or they can pay it on-chain. So this is like the Lightning address. So once they click there, it opens up the QR code, and it's so if they want to pay on-chain, they can copy this. If they want to pay the Lightning, they can copy the below version. Now,
I want to mention also, because John's was impressed and didn't know about the feature, but maybe other people don't either, but the QR code there actually contains both the Bitcoin address and the Lightning invoice. So it doesn't matter what kind of wallet you scan it with, you'll be able to pay with whatever you have.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's not a very documented feature, but it's great for like UX. You don't have to show those two screens, or have like a switcher between them.
yeah.
Actually, could you go back and show the buttons again, Varun?
Yeah.
Do you have it animated where we can show the toggle between SAT and BTC?
Check.
Or maybe
Yeah.
just pull it. Yeah. And so we also added this concept of, a way of displaying sats in Bitcoin. And basically, if you click either of those orange areas, the dot, which represents on-chain Bitcoin, the orange dot, or the BTC, it will toggle to the other mode and display it that way. And then SAT has Lightning and SAT. So this is just a little proposal. I showed it. I shared it in the chat a month or so ago in the community chat. Didn't really get any favorable feedback, but we're going to try it anyway, because I just think it's a really simple way to try to, signal Bitcoin versus Lightning to people. And it works in like tweets and stuff too. Like you could put the circle emoji and then an amount, and people would know it was BTC, or the Lightning emoji. It's very emoji friendly.
In terms of feedback on this component here, the one with the presets, I would probably like this is small. There's like mixed alignment going on with the preset buttons and the center text and the somewhat. I'm assuming it's like full width pay and amount section. I'd probably just like left align the those buttons just to keep it consistent.
Possibly.
Sure.
The idea is that the gutter around them is even, and so it becomes a visual. Like you can see it quickly on the page. I don't know. It's also tricky because we tried to keep the card the same size and even failed at that. I think because I think it gets a little bit smaller because we take out the bars, the completion bars in the player. So it's tricky. But yeah, maybe there's a way to either make them fill the whole full width instead of float. Like because you have the button in the field below, you could just match that with probably.
Yeah, that would also work. The other thing, I don't typically listen, and this is just personal. I don't know if this is like for like the regular podcast listener, but I don't really follow every episode along. I usually end up like looking for an episode that matches like a certain topic that I'm researching, or I'm looking for someone like someone who is talking on that topic. So yeah, this is very much geared and like,
I think we have more pages to show. So one thing we added in the version of the site is the menu at the top. The current site doesn't have any type of menu, and it doesn't have any links to any channels either. And so that area at the top adds a lot of what maybe you're looking for, where the about page will obviously be more text info about what's going on and such, and then the episodes page actually is all the episodes. And then when you click on any of those small cards that Varun showed you at the bottom, that's the way the episodes, and he'll show this to you, but you get actually a dedicated episode pages now, which are also not in the current site. So not only can you look at all the episodes at once in a clear view, but you can also look at each episode individually and get an expanded view.
But things like tags and labels and stuff like that could also help to quickly identify.
Yeah. These will be challenges that we'll do. We have another product. I have to be careful with elaborating this product out too much when the other product is supposed to be the real product. But this is just kind of like a way to keep us all satiated while we work on the bigger stuff. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Tagging is very important, and you're gonna laugh when I show you why. Varun, can we look at the other pages?
Yeah. So this is like this is the about page. Yeah. So the about page gives information about like what we are trying to do, and then it also gives the information of John. So John is the host, and then kind of our principle that we don't go into any sponsors, ads, and then like our core feature, which is a crowd wall. So what is that exactly is a crowd wall? Then we have this episode pages where so here in the episode page we have like all episodes. So right now we have like very less episodes. That's the reason initially this tagging and all this is not there, and like we are like, as John mentioned, the main product that we are working on. So the base is kind of a POC or a way to test out things that we want to implement there and refine it well for the main product. So so here right now we have like less episodes, and we'll give the search functionality here where people can search with specific topics that they're looking for. And so usually in the episode page, this has like a minimum details card, and in this card, so we just show like the image and the episode number, the title, and like who is the interviewer. And so it's completely unlocked, and then the option to listen. And if anybody clicks the listen, then it opens this full page where, so we have like the complete details again. So we have the score, we have sats, we have the player, we have all those options, we have the description, we have the transcript, and then we have a toggle to go for a previous and next episode.
On the homepage, and anyone else could jump in if they like. On the homepage, there was one button there, and these are just kind of minor things I'm pointing out. I'm sorry, but yeah. Okay. So learn about crowd walls. So I noticed on the about page, it also uses this similar kind of style, but for content, but this one is using it for a button. So I would probably make that one either a bit more consistent with the other buttons on the site, or more like a link with the underline or something like this, versus the orange.
Okay, so basically when somebody clicks here, it leads them to this section.
And then you have the image with the border around it, which is the same style as the other, like that button that you click. And then the what is a crowd wall also has that border, which is not a button, but I would just make that element a bit more distinct. In terms of like hierarchy for content, I don't really have much. A crowdfunding. Okay, so so I just clicked on learn about crowd walls, and then I'm learning about a crowdfunded Bitcoin podcast. Maybe I should see what's a crowd wall first.
Yeah, so learn about the podcast. When you click there, it will directly take you to this section of the page.
I see. Okay, gotcha. Okay,
it's also a little more. It's not going to be as like there's an anchor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with HTML stuff, but there'll be an anchor on that block that will take from that button. But that button does take you to the same about page, yes. But in mobile, it's a little more. It works a little bit more nicely because you do actually get taken straight to that in mobile, and you only see the crowd wall definition on mobile.
Yeah, Pavlonex had a question as well. What happens if the LN wallet doesn't support BIP21 fallback? Is it using the Lightning URI or the Bitcoin BIP21 URI?
I don't know. I'm not sure I understand the question. If it's a normal Lightning invoice, so if you're using a Lightning wallet that doesn't have Lightning Bitcoin in it, then your wallet will need to support normal Bitcoin to be able to pay it. I don't think there's an incompatibility issue because we're not using LNURL. So any Lightning wallet should be able to pay that.
Okay. So it's using the Bolt 11 Lightning colon. That's what it's using.
I believe the actual syntax inside is like, I think it's I don't remember, but you can go to the live site and look at it and dissect it, but I don't remember the details, but I think it's first the Lightning string, and then the Bitcoin string, and then some qualifiers for the Bitcoin. I forget the details, but you can literally just go to the live site and look into it, and you can also test it because we're not changing any of that in the 2.0 site. I haven't heard anybody have a problem so far.
Yeah, I was just trying to text it up. Oops. Anyone else? We're a bit quiet today. Anyone else has some comments? Paolo, Christoph?
Would like to say that I find it amazing. I have a question for John. John, is it an original idea from you, the crowd walling thing?
I didn't research if somebody thought of it before me, but I think so.
Wow, that's really, really, really cool. That's one of my favorite applications or use cases for Lightning ever.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's really great. Overall, really cool. I really like the font sizes that you have, the small amount of how clear the whole layout is structured, I would like to say the color palette's also very interesting. But on these, I have a question about the possibility of bringing these two elements, the goal bar and the play bar, together in a way that when they are not still, when the goal is not hasn't been reached, that you could see that they end at the same point. Do you get what I mean? I don't know if you're gonna understand it, because they could maybe align, like if you reach 50% the amount necessary for unlocking the episode, I think it will be interesting for showing on the playing toggle thing underneath that you also can play until 50%. You get? You get it?
Yes, I agree. First, I'll say this. This aspect of the website, the goal, the contribute button, and the player are definitely the hardest aspect of the design to implement. We had to wrestle with it a lot, and I don't think it's perfect, but I can't think of anything better so far. And this page is actually the best example of how hard it is, because we didn't want to change the size from the home page to this page, so these bars aren't full width, and if you make them full width, it actually starts looking weird. And then just them being 2 bars instead of 1 bar is weird. And it's a really difficult thing to get. And it's not a conventional design. It's not a conventional problem. So I didn't know the perfect way. Varun didn't know the perfect way to do it. We just did our best. Specific to your question, I do think it's a good idea. I also think it's just one more thing to make it hard to design. And so what I guess what you're trying to say is, like, it would be cool if there was some equivalent of, like, the part that's locked in the audio player is like grayed out, and I can tell that I can't play that portion.
Exactly.
But like, so we can do that, but then we also have to show the scrubber point at the same time. And so now you have 2 vertical cuts in the thing, and they have to be distinguished somehow. So it means they have to also be 2 different colors, and we already have too many colors, and so it gets complicated. So what I'd say is, I'd be interested to see any of you take a stab at improving any of the stuff I just talked about, because I did reach my limit, and Varun reached his limit on our own expertise to do any better. Like, it's hard. Like, once you move something or change something, the whole layout falls apart, like between here and on the home page. So it's really tricky.
I had a question because sorry if you covered this earlier already. I did try it out, the lightning functionality on the existing site. It worked super smooth. And I also realized that it was at, I don't know, an episode was at 65% or so, and I was not going to top the whole thing off. I was just going to pay a little bit, right? So then it made me think about, well, how do I know when the whole thing is unlocked now? Is there a mechanism for, let's say I'm the first one to pay, I pay 5,000 sats, but it takes another week for it to be unlocked. Maybe I missed it. Is there something where it says, okay, just send me an email when this is unlocked?
In this website, no, and there probably never will be in this website. But there is a mechanism to get what you want. You can just subscribe to the podcast in any of the normal podcast channels, and it will show up in like any other new podcast to you. But that means you're choosing to be a user that doesn't contribute and just waits till everybody else pays, which is probably what most people will do. But so you do have that use case that you can seize if you want it, just by subscribing to that podcast elsewhere. And you will be notified like any other podcast. But I'll say long term, we have much cooler ideas for how to handle this and in a more self-sovereign way. So you'll actually be more like, say, getting RSS feed updates from the website instead of getting an email. Because a big thing with our company is, like, I don't want custody of anything. And so if I don't have to take your email, I'm not going to.
Yeah. Because that might be, I mean, that's clearly a limitation of the current tech and the distribution mechanisms. But that is one of those small things. They might be they can make or break something like that, where I do want to know when a new one comes out, and I may want to contribute, but then I want another reminder when it's actually unlocked. And right now I would have to check 2 different places separately for it.
Well, no, you only have to check one. You just have to give up on the other.
Exactly.
But yeah, I agree that communicating with the users that want to be communicated with needs to be an added feature, and it is planned, just not for this website, because it's something that's more robust, and probably like a big problem with this website is I don't actually think this is the proper way to do podcasts in the long term. I think you always want a marketplace, and so solo websites, they're kind of like they're good. They're necessary for marketing purposes. Like, look at how What Bitcoin did. He runs his website, and it's elaborate and has everything of his content, but he still gets most of his downloads and most of his plays from all of his channels. The marketplaces. And so I'm more interested in ideas around turning this into a marketplace, and then having all of the full features that you guys are mentioning. Because if I keep putting features in this website, we'll never make the intentional plan.
Okay. I think one thing that could just be done is like when you do contribute, you could say something like follow along on Twitter. I don't know if that's already there. But
we just have
maybe,
that Twitter icon there. That's it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But like at the point when you contribute and say like, hey, it's only like 20% over. Share this with your friends and follow us on Twitter so that we can get like blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's actually good, Varun. We should after the
Yeah.
the confirmation for the pay should probably give them a share option, because that was actually a big feedback. Was not really a feedback, but an observation of people's reactions, which was a lot of people don't realize until they tip that they now have like a sunk cost, and now they feel this need to like promote the podcast and like you said, know when it gets filled, and encourage other people to fill it, because now it's like they like invested and they want other people to help, because they don't want to fill the whole thing, they can't afford it, whatever, they don't want to pay that much, and so we're missing out on an opportunity to turn these users into promoters.
I mean, this is not necessarily also like a feature, but what you could also do is like when like maybe on a weekly basis, if like a certain portion gets unlocked, then you do like a summary and say like, hey, by the way, this like on Twitter, like this much was unlocked, and blah 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 spoke about XYZ.
Yeah, I did that more in the first. The problem, like again, with not having a marketplace is nobody will come to this site and nobody will tip when you're not marketing it, because nobody's going to be like searching for Crowdwell podcast website on Google. Like they're going to be searching for a specific guest or name, and maybe find this if the SEO is good enough. But generally, like you need the marketplace aspect.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to stop the recording right now. This has been Bitcoin Design Review number 16. This one was jam-packed with all lightning goodness. And I will stop it now and tune in next time. Thank you so much for the guests, Varun, John, Eric, showing off your projects. Please send the links to the Figmas and in the chat here. We can continue chatting if you guys like, but officially we're over now.
Yeah, Varun, go ahead and link that in the